Hi everyone, this is Wei from Project Ph.D. Passion. In this video, I would like to share with you some strategies that I used when I applied for graduate program, how I made my list of graduate program while still keep my interest of research relevant, how do I weigh in my options, and how do I keep track of everything. Hopefully by this video, you will have a rough idea how to begin your journey of getting your PhD degree. I started my PhD program at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill in 2015 in Physical Chemistry Division. Before I started looking out for graduate program, I had zero idea about the existence of UNC. UNC Chemistry actually has a great reputation. It ranks at the number 15 across the US with its chemistry program. At the time, I only know the very top 10 schools like Harvard, Stanford, or UC Berkeley, because I was no expert and I had no experience about that. People around me barely talked about studying overseas. And my PI graduated from UC Berkeley, and that's the only way I know about this school. So it's no surprise I had little knowledge about American's graduate system. But I'm not saying that you have to know each program, each school before you apply for a PhD program. It should be fine to just apply for these top schools if some conditions are true. And these are the big if for me. So if I have a perfect straight A GPA, or I have authored a bunch of journalist publications, and along with some wonderful achievements, some competition results, but which I didn't have this kind of stuff. If I have those, sure, just no problem, just go for it. I don't need to find other alternatives to study abroad. So back at that time, I'm aware that the chance of me getting into the top schools was zero and it's impossible. In order to achieve my dream of studying abroad, there must be some other ways I need to do. I pulled out the list of ranking in the chemistry division, which I use US News by the way, which is very popular I believe. And I looked very seriously at the name of each school. Remember, I felt overwhelmed because I barely recognized the name of it. Not to mention, I have to think about which city I might want to live in, the big city or the small country, the urban side. And do I want to stay in western or on the east side? I have no idea. America is just too big for me. It's too much. And on top of that, I need to take an English proficiency exam, which will require a lot of time and energy to do it if I want to master in this exam. So now when I'm thinking back, I think that's one of the reasons that I failed at my first attempt to apply a graduate program. Because it's just too much. I failed to even submit my application material. A couple years ago in 2014, I quit my full-time job so that I can focus on applying for a PhD program. And the second time around, I knew it's gonna be my last chance to pursue my dream to study abroad. And I knew I need to implement a strategy, a plan, so it can help me to get through all the difficulties I had before, and it will help me to find out the programs and school that works for me, that stands out for me. My general philosophy is not too complicated, and you just need to take 3 steps to find all the programs that works for you. And then you can channel all your energy into other materials, like prepare a research statement, the CV or resume, and all other things along the line. So the way I did it, first, I created an Excel sheet. On one column in it, I list all the university I'm interested in, which by the way, I use the US News again. So I target on the top 50 schools as my pool. And on the columns followed, I have the TOEFL, GRE, subject GRE, and the GPA requirement for each department. In this step, what you need to do is to look on the website on each program and look specifically on the tab that lists the requirement of this exam. Say TOEFL, what is the minimum score you need to score? And fill this information into the blank cell, as well as for the GRE, SGRE, and the GPA. So at this point, don't worry too much about research itself yet. We will take care of that later on. And the second step is I try to identify my weakness in those standardized qualifications. I think my biggest weakness is my subject GRE. I took the exam, yes, but I did not perform well. And I don't want to spend another time to investigate this exam again. So then I prioritized all these schools. I kind of do the group. In one of them, SGRE is strongly recommended. And on the other group, even just optional. I did the same thing for the TOEFL, GRE, and the GPA. For example, I don't have a very perfect GPA, and if there's a program that requires a GPA above a certain point, I will place the school bottom of my priority list. And I also do the same thing for TOEFL and GRE. The two exam is not really difficult for me, but there's some department that require a TOEFL that need to be higher than 100, and my score of TOEFL is only a little bit above 100, and this is what I need to keep in mind. And I also look for programs that require a minimum of, say, the verbal performance in TOEFL. If they require a 25, I think I just drop off the score to the bottom priority in my list. After the two steps, the Excel sheet should kind of generate a priority list for you that the program works for you. It took me about a few days to just finish that, and I have an idea of about 15 to 12 schools that I think will works for me just based on this exam qualification. Meanwhile, I think it's a great time to get yourself familiar and be comfortable with the design of the website, because some of them I think is really unreadable. It's a good practice. You just look for some numbers. It doesn't require a lot of your mental loading. So do that. And now we will proceed to the third step, which will be the final and the essential one, to really look into the research side. This step would probably take you a few days or even maybe a few weeks, because the research side is really essential and important not only in your research statement, but also will be relevant to your future studies. For the first round, look into the website and see if any research group is interesting enough for you to join. Say if the research is really promising, or just the website really designed well and it sparks you. Any kind of things, list of it into your Excel sheet. And then by the second round, you need to look very specifically of the keywords. Write down the keywords that were really interested in you. Say for me, I'm interested in photochemistry, lasers, optics, and molecules, things like of that. It will give you a general idea of what kind of picture research will be. You may not be able to identify all the stuff in the first time. Keep trying it, keep logging into the website, keep looking for the research group, even if it's just the same group over and over again. Give it a shot, give it a chance, have some imagination about the research. Imagine if you are in the research group, will you enjoy the research and the atmosphere? So really take time into that. Take a few weeks, maybe 1 or 2 weeks, and then in the third round, you need to identify which department that contain at least 3 groups you are interested in. 3 groups, because that will be useful when you are writing your research of a statement. Because a lot of programs will ask you, or maybe want you to hint which groups you might be interested in. And at this point, you need to be very specific about their research groups. So normally, and hopefully by this point, you already have your top 10 and top 15 schools that works for you, and you can channel all your energy into the research group and look more detail about the requirement, like how many recommendation later is you need, what is the fee, when's the due date, all the things are kind of details. Okay, now watch the demo about the worksheet I'm talking about.
Alright, so here's the Excel sheet I used in 2014, 2015. I haven't touched it since then. It's not super fancy, but it worked. And I want to show you and guide you what the spreadsheet looks like and how to apply the concept I just mentioned. So here you can see a couple of tabs I created. There are some Chinese you probably cannot recognize, but you can judge the function from the content. So here I fill in all the exam qualification that's specified on the department website, along with its ranking from the US News. The order of this list you see right now doesn't matter, but really look at how I separate them into 2 groups. So on the bottom of it, I got schools that require mandatory SGRE scores, where I highlight in red check. So basically in this step, I already cut off half schools in the top 50. And remember, the committee doesn't necessarily cut you out because of you failed just one of their requirements. Besides, you don't need to follow this strategy. But for me, I don't have very strong and favored cities, and I don't want to invest my money and my time into something vaguely promising. Also, select school by the ranking may be a little bit biased, but again, I at least can start from somewhere and then I can take a deeper dive. So with all of that, we can look into the research side, which is much more exciting. And in this tab, here I got one column with the name of the school and then the name of the PI in each school whose research is really cool. And then below the name, I put in keywords that are relevant to my experience or with my future direction of research. So out of curiosity, let me revisit on UNC what did I put in back at the time. So I have 3 professors' name and the topic I'm interested back in the time. I joined none of them. I joined another group. But basically, I'm still interested in nanomaterials spectroscopy and condensed phase and microscopy. So that's great. Target program. So here I have the 5 schools ranked in top 30 and I put in all the information where I have to submit my SOP and the link, the deadline, that's the most important, and when I have to send out the exam and the reference later. And here again, some other schools, and also with on the Europe, yes, I applied for Europe, but I didn't get any offer from them. And this is the timeline. I started the project from November. That's great. And when I have to finish all the stuff, and this is a reference letter, and also I have some schools that I found I probably don't have to submit my application. For example, in Boston College, I found there's only 4 research groups that in physical division. In Rice University, I think I don't have any lab that interests me, and so on and so on.
So there you have it. This is how I began my grad school hunting. I give you 3 steps on building a net of prospect grad school that stand out only for you. Bear in mind, people have different ways to find out matched program for them that only fit for them. As an international student who doesn't know much about schools outside of her country, I think that's the best way that I can find out the match program, and I'm happy with the result. Thanks so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, give me a thumbs up or leave a message. Subscribe more videos like this. I got lots of content like this in here in my channel. How to build your mindset and every area of your PhD life. If you are looking for that, subscribe more and I'll look forward to seeing you in the next video.